we need to move on to the next site. And that is land south of Coldham's Lane. And we have Chris Criscione and Tim Chilvers presenting. Over to you, Chris.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Councillor Daunton. Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Chris Criscione. I'm the Communications Officer at Anderson Group, and I'm joined this evening by my colleague, Tim Chilvers, who heads up Land and Planning. And so it's great to be here at the Cambridge East Community Forum again, this time to be on the presenter's side, to talk about land south of Coldham's Lane. It's a site with a complex history, and much of that history Anderson has been a part of, working with the city councillors, with residents, and of course with neighbouring businesses and neighbours in other regards. And so I'd just like to run through an introduction to the site. Many of you will know it. Tim will then go through our vision and proposals, which are sort of imminent for submission to the local planning authority.
Can I just say before you start, please do bear in mind the time and keep to your time, because we do want to get through as many questions as possible. So do keep to your time. Thank you.
Absolutely, we most certainly will. And so if I can talk a little bit about the local plan. So in the 2018 Cambridge City Local Plan, the site is allocated in Policy 16 for a number of uses across the what's considered an area of major change. In development terms, the most significant parcel is parcel A here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the A is quite obvious in any case. That is for appropriate commercial uses as set out in that local plan policy. Area B for elements of outdoor recreation and ecological mitigation. And then within our control, we have what's known as Area C, or as many people will know, the lakes. And so that's down here. It's just the two lakes with obviously the TA lake above that that's out of our control. And so plans are for wider generation. I'll move on to the next slide. And so it's no secret that we've been at this for a while. And it's been a thoroughly detailed process, many iterations of proposals from mixed use to what we see here on site or here in the proposals now. The good thing that's come out of that slightly sort of protracted process is the sheer volume of engagement that we've had with local residents. And so now we feel that this scheme is in a place that reflects their wants and desires out of such an asset really on the lakes for the most part, but also what they want to see on area A and B. And so that is, you know, a sort of run through of where we have been. We've had 3 public consultations over the years that I've most certainly been part of. And every time we've had a great deal of interaction with local residents. And so that has led to what we currently see. Sorry, I'm not sure what the noise is now, but handily, I'll pass on to Tim to run over the vision for the land south of Coldham's Lane.
Great, thanks, Chris. Yeah, if you want to pop down the slide to the next one, that'd be great. Thank you. And yeah, good evening, everyone. As Chris has said, the context behind this, these sort of 3 parcels of which we own, is the local plan, the 2018 local plan. So it's up to date and it sets a very clear framework for what the council's expectations are in terms of the development and type of uses that need to come forward, and the interaction between these parcels as well, because it's an area that is quite naturally severed with the rail line and various uses. So there's really an emphasis on making this as linked as it can be. So parcel A there, you can see, and we can run through the other slides, but parcel A is now coming forward, or we're putting it forward for a commercial use. Historically, we had proffered and looked to come forward with more of a mixed use offering, but really the desire was to see a commercial only scheme, and that's what we are looking to do. Parcel B then will be used wholly for ecology mitigation, bearing in mind the various designations of the land in the area and the fact that we need to offset biodiversity requirements. And then the lakes, clearly there's a long history of the lakes and problems associated with what could be a really, really good asset for the local community. We're as keen as anyone to get this sorted for the long term and to make these a real usable place that residents can enjoy. And so the scheme would undertake quite a significant programme of improvements to the lakes and make them safe and accessible. And we will open those up so that members of the public can make use of them, as I say, in a safe way. So if we just run through the next slide, Chris, that will give people a slightly more zoomed in prospect of what we're looking at. So parcel A, which is that L-shaped area, which obviously has the tins running through the middle. There'll be commercial uses on both elements of the land there, with a grade separated crossing so that there's no conflict between pedestrians and cyclists and any kind of vehicular movements. And this area we would be applying for in outline. So what you see there is purely illustrative as to give a flavour of what could come forward. But really, the details are something that would come forward as part of reserve matters. Go on to the next slide, please, Chris. Parcel B, as I said earlier, we're really looking to do a light touch proposal here of biodiversity mitigation. So really not a huge amount of change to what's currently in situ on the site, but there will be enhancements to habitats, predominantly for invertebrate species. And then the most exciting element of the scheme from our perspective, and no doubt from the communities as well, is the lakes. And so this would be a part of the site we apply for in detail, so that there's no kind of time lag or delay between what we're putting forward, hopefully obtaining a permission that's implementable, and then we can bring forward the works that are required to bring the lakes forward. And really for these lakes, we're not looking to over-engineer anything at this stage, and we don't want to kind of preempt what the community might want to bring forward, in the years ahead here, because the way we see it is this is a local asset for informal recreation and use only. We don't want it to be, and nor do I think the community really want it to be, a major draw or kind of traffic generator or anything like that, because there are other country parks in the vicinity of this site which fulfill that role and don't have the physical constraints that this particular parcel of land does. And there you can see, for example, just a zoom in of some of the plans that are emerging, just to show that these are detailed plans. As I said earlier, not over-engineered, so very much timber, natural materials, nothing intrusive or urban in look and feel. And just two images which show what the current condition of the lakes are in, and really we just got to build on what's there, because they really are incredible on site. And at the moment, aside from the angling club and certain permits for bird watching and the like, it's closed off to people, and that's a sad state of affairs. It makes it ripe for trespass, and the sooner we can resolve this, I think the better, really. So next steps very quickly are we've put in for an EIA scoping opinion, just to make sure that the technical evidence base upon which we're basing our plans is robust and satisfactory.
Could you explain EIA, please?
Of course I can. Environmental impact assessment. So it's a procedure you go through for major applications where there's more severe potential environmental impacts than a normal application of a normal scale. So you just have to go into more detail in assessing traffic, air quality, noise, those kind of considerations. The planning application itself, we've been working closely with the City Council and the Highways Authority also through pre-app, and we'll be looking to submit the application next month. And obviously that builds on many years of consultation and engagement with the public to shape where we've got to, and that public engagement will obviously continue, and it will continue throughout the course of the determination, and there'll be engagement in relation to the lakes, which obviously we've got to manage and we're very sensitive to in the months ahead and as the weather warms up. But that last bullet point there, I think is absolutely crucial from our perspective, is in bringing forward aid for that local plan commercial development, what that will enable us to do is the early and upfront delivery and improvements of the lakes. And that is key, I think.
There was, Councillor Daunton, a question submitted in advance that related to trespass on the lakes, and Tim's touched on that. And I think in early and upfront delivery of that parcel, really the focus is on sort of early prevention. Clearly, you know, summer is upon us thick and fast. And so we will take the necessary steps to manage that, and I can go into detail in the question time. But in effect, the way we see the solution to the trespass, to the antisocial behaviour and so on, is through opening up lakes. And so that's our sort of central mission and aim at this point in time. The last slide is just to say, you know, we'd be happy to take questions. If you do want more detailed sort of descriptions on the proposals, please do visit our website, because that will effectively go through what we've just presented, but also you know, some more information on top of that. And our contact details are also on there as well, so we're more than happy to take questions via email.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Chris. And just before we go to the questions in the chat, there was another question sent in advance. Would Andersons please stop referring to the lakes as Burnside Lakes? A possible name might be, for example, Cherry Hinton Lake. So that's something for you too.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been having this conversation for years, and our central sort of focus when we sort of labelled it Burnside Lakes way back when was to make sure that people weren't calling it the Romsey Beach, because that was attracting hundreds of visitors on weekends in the summer. We were moaned at for calling it Cambridge Lakes. We were moaned at for calling it Cherry Hinton Lakes, all for various different reasons, and we settled on Burnside. However, moving forward, we are speaking with local representatives as well as residents about what they want to call the lakes as they come forward to become the urban country park. And I think that should be where our sort of efforts are, on making sure that what it's called in future is something that's reflective of local opinion.
We're certainly alive to the issue of associated with the Burnside reference, though, so that's eminently sensible, and we'll make sure that's taken into account. Okay,
thank you. And so if you could take your presentation down now, we'll go on to the questions. And Chris Carter, if I could take the first question first.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Would you like me to read it out, or you?
Yeah. So Ruth, it's Claire Daunton here, and it's Daunton, D-A-U-N-T-O-N, not Dawson. And if we can have another meeting in the near future, well, I should just explain that because of COVID, we missed 2 meetings last year. So we do realise that we've got a lot to get through in this session, and we normally meet every 3 to 4 months, and we will now be getting back to that schedule, as I mentioned at the beginning, alternating between City leading and South Cambs leading. So we should be meeting more often than we have done in the recent past. Over to you now, Chris Carter.
Thank you. Yes, further point from Ruth. The future of the lakes should be tied up with the future of Snaky Path and of the brook. I've suggested in the past that the path needs to be remodelled with perhaps additional land taken from the school to permit a widening. What options are currently in play?
I believe the city and county councils are taking forward proposals to remodel and look at Snaky Path and some widening there. So we've had discussions with them on that, and I understand that they're you know, they've got monies set aside, and they're looking at initiatives to do exactly that. You know, obviously it's land that we don't control. I think there's every chance that we may be asked to make some kind of off-site mitigation contribution to it. Yeah, I think that's open for discussion. We certainly wouldn't say no if it was reasonable and put to us.
Thank you.
And I mean, in addition to that, we've had meetings before with the Friends of the Cherry Hinton Brook, very conscious of their sort of their opinions on that part of the area. And for us, I think that the proposals we see to date do respect the Cherry Hinton Brook and the special nature of it. But also in creating that cycle and pedestrian access at the northern part of the lakes parcel, in creating that will effectively take away a pinch point and a sort of one central access that we see at the moment. So in that respect, I'd argue that they're, you know, the proposals are reflective of those discussions.
Okay.
Can I just add in there that there was a question sent in by David Brooks that on the improvement to Snaky Path, and I think if you've not covered that in your answer, you'll be taking that up later on, I think, from the written question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, the next question, what is the current situation with the methane from the old refuse tip?
Yeah, so we've got you know, an incredibly extensive amount of monitoring going on, and it has been going on for many years now. So you know, the gas report will form part of the very detailed geo-environmental report and monitoring report form part of the application. It's not actually gassing much at all anymore, just due to its age. So actually, it's really you know, very settled, and you know, gas mitigation measures will be put in place as a matter of course, both during any construction and obviously post-construction as well. But in terms of actually what's happening in the ground at the moment, nothing from the monitoring is indicating anything of particular concern.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, are you able to comment on where the access points will be for the lakes, vehicles and people?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I alluded to it in my last answer, but we've tried to shift the emphasis to access from the tins. That's the most actively used area, or sorry, cycle network. And so we want to allow sort of ready access from that area. The car park that exists at the end of Burnside, that will still remain, but purely for use by the private fishing club. And obviously access for those who need to maintain the lakes going forward. So that will be the only vehicular access to site.
Okay, thank you. The remaining comments relate to the name, and I think we've covered that already. So, Chair, that's the end of the questions as I see them.
Thank you. And we had a written question sent in advance from Claire Castle. And if Claire is here in the meeting, I think colleagues from the Greater Cambridge Partnership Transport will take that question and get in touch with you, get back to you about that. Thank you, Chris.